The day of Planet Vegeta's destruction, Cooler was actually there. The Armored Squadron picked up Goku's ship and they was going to destroy it. But Cooler told them not to because that's his brother's work, and he even seen that it was a baby inside. So he thought it would be nothing that they would have to worry about because the baby wouldn't be no problem to them. But for this what if, we're going to have to say that Cooler wasn't thinking the same way he was thinking in the original. He could have easily told them to bring Goku's ship on his, and Goku's life would have been totally different. He wouldn't even be called Goku. He would be known as Kakarot. So let's do just that. What if Goku was raised by Cooler, making him the only Saiyan child in the universe raised by a tyrant? Watching Frieza be full of himself and blinded by his arrogant pride made Cooler beyond sick. So when Salza tells Cooler that there's a ship getting away from the planet, Cooler decides to bring the Saiyan child with him to teach Frieza a lesson in the future about being so prideful. Salza doesn't think twice, and Goku's ship is caught. Well, Kakarot's ship is caught. The Armored Squadron give Kakarot dirty looks, and Cooler checks Kakarot's power level, and he finds out that he's actually a low-class Saiyan, so he's really not impressive to Cooler. But Cooler does understand how training works. He's even seen that Saiyans transform into a great ape, so he does know how a Saiyan can grow over time. Cooler knows that there can be many things that would happen with this Saiyan being with him, but then there could be some sort of entertainment by having him too. If the Super Saiyan isn't just a myth, and this kid actually achieves it, this could work out for him. Frieza's side of the universe will be controlled by Cooler, and his brother will be taught a lesson once and for all. Cooler laughs. The future will be fun, and he goes with this idea. Cooler tells everyone that the Saiyan is a part of their crew now, and any objections will be met by death. Everyone stays quiet, and the dirty looks that they were giving Kakarot once before goes away. Kakarot doesn't know anything about Planet Vegeta or his destruction. He only knows about his parents. Salza looks at the kid. For a minute, he realizes that this Saiyan child is the son of Bardock's. What a coincidence. He was the one to rebel against Frieza to the final end, and his son was even sent off the planet. This could be interesting. Kakarot would know his name, so there would be no need for Cooler to rename him. Kakarot asks where are his parents, and he even asks Cooler and the rest of them who are they. Cooler would give him the hard news off the rip. They were killed by Frieza, but I saved you from the destruction. I'm Cooler, and this is the Armored Squadron, the squadron that you're joining. Cooler smirks at the shock of Kakarot's face. He wants to implant Kakarot's mind with as much hatred as possible for his brother. And while doing this, he wants to make Kakarot solely loyal to him like a dog. He even tells Kakarot that Frieza is actually his brother. To everyone's surprise, Kakarot clenches his small fist, and this intrigues Cooler even more. Cooler tells Kakarot that if he wants his revenge, he'll have to become stronger than any Saiyan in history has ever been. Because right now he's a low-class Saiyan with a despicable power level of 2. But even if he was born an elite Saiyan, none of them could even hold a candle next to Frieza's power, so that doesn't even matter. Cooler orders the Armored Squadron to train Kakarot and even teach him basic knowledge, so he won't be such an idiot. Kakarot gets a flashback of Bardock just telling him to survive, and he goes along with the rest of the Armored Squadron and they train. While living with Cooler, Kakarot will witness Cooler destroy many planets, and he will realize that Cooler is very merciless. Over time, Cooler will become some sort of idol to Kakarot, so the trace of Cooler rubs off on Kakarot. Kakarot will train constantly, so his power is steadily increasing. Kakarot walks around the ship one day, and he stumbles across Cooler training, and he just watches him in awe. Cooler turns his head, and he sees Kakarot, and Kakarot attempts to hide, but Cooler will still be able to see his spiky hair. Cooler decides to ignore this and continue his training. Doré approaches Kakarot, and he picks him up by his armor. What are you doing over here? Kakarot swings both of his legs and arms to try to get out of Dory's grasp. Put me down before I kill you. Dory walks with Kakarot still in his hands, and they go inside a training room. Kakarot turns his head, and he manages to bite Dory's hand. This causes him to be thrown, but Kakarot catches himself before he crashes into a wall. Dory calls Kakarot a brat, and they begin their training. Salza will walk in just to spectate alongside Nades. Kakarot gets really tired, and he breathes heavily. He clenches his fist and looks down at the ground. I have to become much stronger than this. I must catch up to Cooler. This statement surprises the others. Kakarot falls out of consciousness, and Salza catches his body before it falls to the ground. Kakarot life with Cooler and the Armored Squadron is pretty good. Since there's not a lot of them, Kakarot gets to be around the 4 all the time. Cooler would allow Kakarot to go on missions with him. Cooler allows Kakarot to go on missions with him just by himself. And Kakarot would try to copy some of Cooler's moves, even practice them when he has alone time. Cooler would even allow Kakarot to go on missions on his own to see how Kakarot would do by himself, which Kakarot loves because he gets to let loose and fight everyone on his own. Obviously, Cooler watches from outer space and he sees Kakarot using some of his moves. and attempting to copy his techniques. The Armored Squadron laughs at this, and Cooler finds this interesting as well. When Kakarot goes on missions with the Armored Squadron, he's hard to control. He's often a loose cannon, doing whatever he wants. He's even hard to handle when they're not doing missions, often wandering around and watching Cooler train. One day, Cooler actually allowed Kakarot to train with him, and this furthered Kakarot's motivation to become even stronger, to the point where he could actually impress Cooler, because the strength he displayed just now was nothing to Cooler. He wasn't even able to touch him. So imagine when he fights Frieza, this would be nothing. He could even die. Cooler would allow this to happen often. He was becoming more fond of the Saiyan without him noticing. Kakarot would get a growth spurt, and he isn't a shrimp anymore. He's also grown a lot, but he isn't at the level that could really impress Cooler. So Cooler decides that it's time for Kakarot to meet the man he hates the most. Cooler's ship flies through space and lands on one of Frieza's planets, unknown to Kakarot. He's confused the entire time because he doesn't even know where he is. But he still keeps his stoic expression and keeps walking next to Cooler. The other Saiyans, Nappa, Raditz, and Vegeta would have been doing the same thing that they were doing in the original. So nothing with them would have actually changed. Raditz would have still been under the impression that Kakarot was still sent to Earth. The Saiyans would have been on their way to a mission to actually think of a way to defeat Frieza while they were on it. But Vegeta would stop them upon seeing Cooler and someone next to him that looks like a Saiyan. Kakarot would turn his head, and a confused expression would go on his face once he sees Vegeta and the tail that he has. Kakarot can't believe that Vegeta's a Saiyan, and there's actually more Saiyans out there. He was always under the impression that all the Saiyans was killed. But then again, he never really asked whether or not he was the only Saiyan in the universe, because he was always having one thing on his mind, and that was getting stronger. Kakarot would even see Nappa and Raditz. Salsa tells Kakarot to catch up, and then he continues to follow them. Vegeta is positive that whoever he saw is a Saiyan. Nappa and Raditz comes over to Vegeta, and they ask him why he's looking that way. Vegeta tells them that he's seen another Saiyan walking next to Cooler. Nappa and Raditz ask Vegeta who could the Saiyan be. Vegeta tells Raditz that the Saiyan looked like his father, but he knows that it wasn't his father because he died alongside Planet Vegeta. Raditz starts to remember his brother Kakarot because he remembered his parents saying that he looked at exactly like Bardock. Raditz tries to put this thought to the side because the last time he heard about his brother, he was sent to a planet called Earth. But then again, is he actually still there? The Saiyans delay their mission just to see or even speak to the unknown Saiyan to ask them how did he even meet Cooler, or hopefully recruit him to overthrow both of them. As Cooler and the Armored Squadron walk through the base of Frieza, they meet Zarbon and Dodoria. They bow before Cooler, but when they see Kakarot, they make a sly remark about him being another one of those monkeys. This ticks Kakarot off. Kakarot squeezes Zarbon's neck and lifts him into the air. What was that? Zarbon tries to release himself from Kakarot's grasp, and then Frieza arrives. What are you doing here, brother? And what's happening here? Kakarot's eyes widens. He turns his head and he sees Frieza. He drops Zarbon. Cooler smirks. I would like you to meet someone. Kakarot screams Frieza's name and his power begins to rise. 15,000, 20,000, 25,000. Frieza's scatter explodes because of how fast Kakarot's power is charging up. Frieza doesn't know what to expect. Kakarot is beyond stronger than the other Saiyans, and he could even be stronger than what he thinks he is. Kakarot rushes towards Frieza and actually lands a blow. Frieza begins to struggle. Here I thought you would have been stronger than this. Kakarot attempts to strike Frieza once again, but Frieza catches his hand. Frieza punches Kakarot in the face and sends him flying out of the building. Cooler starts to laugh, and Frieza begins to look angry. Frieza starts to think that Kakarot dead looks sort of familiar. Then he starts to think about it a little more, and he actually remembers killing Bardock. He questions Cooler on how he has one of those Saiyans. Cooler starts to explain how he found Kakarot when he was flying off planet Vegeta. He even tells Frieza how he was the one to raise Kakarot. The Saiyans will watch Kakarot's body fly out of the building and they rush over to him. Raditz sees Kakarot and he realizes that Vegeta was talking about him. The last thing that Kakarot would hear and see before he passes out was Raditz saying his name and calling him brother. Raditz can't believe at all that he's actually seeing Kakarot here. Raditz would try to shake Kakarot to wake up, but it wouldn't work. He's still unconscious. Cooler tells Frieza that things will be changing pretty soon. He wants to take over the entire family business, and if he doesn't relinquish all of his planets to him, then he'll have to take over all of them by force. This angers Frieza, and he tells Cooler to leave. Cooler laughs, and he tells Frieza before he leaves to enjoy his time while he still can. Cooler orders Salza to go and retrieve Kakarot's body, and before Kakarot could even be picked up by the Saiyans, Salza tells them to put him down, or he'll kill them all. Maze grabs Kakarot's body, and Raditz screams out what are they going to do with his brother. But they would just ignore him and continue to leave the planet. Everything went as planned. Cooler is elated. Frieza is all riled up, and Kakarot actually got to meet him, and he did exactly what he thought he would do. And to his surprise, Kakarot even got to meet the other Saiyans, and since he has ties with one of them, they could actually possibly join him. But if they don't, he'll force Kakarot to just kill them. Kakarot is placed in a healing tank, and as he heals and gains consciousness, he thinks about the situations that just happened, meeting the other Saiyans and actually meeting Frieza. It sucks to lose to Frieza right now, but he did gain one thing. He knows that he's not the only Saiyan around, and he actually has a brother. Kakarot starts to think maybe the other Saiyans hate Frieza just as much as he does. But one thing doesn't make sense. They work for him. Maybe they don't even know that Frieza was the one to destroy Planet Vegeta. He has to meet them again. And when he does, he'll tell them everything that Frieza has done. Hopefully they can join him and work under Cooler and be a part of the Armored Squadron. Or if Cooler allows it, a Saiyan Squadron.